Hey everyone, and welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul. Today I'm going to be doing an introduction and demonstration of Windows 8.1. If you're not familiar with Windows 8, it's been out for a little while now. 8.1 is essentially the next version of Windows 8, and let's just answer the first question right off the bat. How might you get it, assuming you watch the rest of this video and you're sold? Well, there's a couple different versions that are available. So first off, links to these will be down in the video description below. If you want to click on those, head over to the Newegg website to check them out. But to put it in simple terms, basically, there are no more upgrade versions available if you're talking strictly speaking about Windows 8.1. You have a retail version that looks kind of like this. You have an OEM version that looks kind of like this. The difference between the two is basically going to be support directly from Microsoft. So with the OEM version, you are your own support. So this is geared more towards power users or folks who are very familiar and comfortable working with operating systems and installations and troubleshooting. The retail version here will come with full support from Microsoft, so you can call them up if you have any questions or concerns. The other difference between the two is if you buy OEM, you will specifically buy either the 32-bit or the 64-bit version. I recommend 64-bit unless you know that for some reason you specifically need 32-bit. Whereas with retail, you'll have the option, you actually get both discs in there, so you can choose either 32-bit or 64-bit to install. Apart from that, you have Windows 8.1 Pro, which we're looking at right here, and then you'll also have just Windows 8.1, which is basically your home version. And again, just two versions to choose from depending on your needs. Pro is designed more for an office or a corporate environment if you're connecting to a domain and that sort of thing. The home version is for home users, as you might expect. So what I'm going to be doing here, what I've already done, is gone and installed Windows 8.1 on this little system that I've set up. I'm going to be giving you a demonstration, a walkthrough of some of the changes, some of the new features, as well as some of the Windows 8 features that were originally implemented, but you might not have heard too much about because they were sort of more under the hood elements. And yeah, basically just a demonstration of how Microsoft has gone about updating this UI to make it easier to use, more understandable, and more fluid, especially if you don't have access to a touchscreen interface. Although I will be showing a touchscreen interface too. Alright guys, for this demo I'm going to be walking you through quite a few different things, but you may notice I have two monitors set up now. The one on the left is a touchscreen, so whereas I'm going to be mainly focusing this video on using Windows 8.1 with desktop environments, and I know a lot of folks do not have access to a 10-point touchscreen like this one here from Acer, which allows us to use a lot of the touch features. I'll kind of be showing touch and then using the mouse and keyboard as well to show the different things. But to start off, I'm actually going to go and talk about stuff that was already there with Windows 8. These are what is often referred to as under-the-hood improvements. And these are things that, apart from the lack of a start button in Windows 8, which is now back, if you can see right over there, there's a start button, little Windows start button. These are things that Microsoft did to improve the usage of this, and particularly they've done a lot of stuff to improve usage of this when you're dealing with portable devices such as laptops and tablets. But for starters, everything is streamlined and uses less memory. So Windows 8 actually has a smaller footprint even than Windows 7. To that end, I'm actually going to pull up the Task Manager here. This is the advanced mode. When you initially pull up Task Manager, you'll have sort of a basic mode here. Click on more details and you see the good Task Manager. So just to do a quick demonstration here, this is a huge improvement over the Windows 7 Task Manager. And again, this is something that was already here with the existing version of Windows 8, not 8.1. But Windows 8 will use less memory. It also has a lot of power savings stuff integrated. So Metro apps, for example, when you launch them, will suspend themselves after just a few seconds if you're not using them. That saves some power. It has a function called Connected Standby, which basically allows the operating system to go into a very low power state. That does require hardware support, so it's available on some SoC devices like Microsoft's Surface, but we're hoping we'll have compatibility with some other hardware, like maybe some of the upcoming Intel processors that might next gen be coming out in 2014. But you do have that availability to save power, again, particularly if you're using a portable device like a laptop. That's a huge improvement. There's something called kernel tick, and I'm not going to go too in-depth into this, but basically the kernel of the OS will have a cycle, and every so often it will sort of wake up the processor and say, hey, what's going on here? But basically Windows 8 eliminates the need for it to do that on a regular basis. Particularly that's designed for processors like the 4770K that's in our CPU that we're using, or in our computer that we're using here. and that will allow you to basically let the CPU idle for longer periods of time without waking up to like update a timer or something like that. So a much better way of taking advantage of the power savings that's available in a lot of modern CPUs. Also memory fixes, and as part of this task manager we can go over and monitor memory usage. Apart from being more efficient with that, there's also something called address space layout randomization, which came out with Windows 8. The updated versions are available, which are called Force ASLR and HEASLR. Essentially, it's allowing for better management of the memory, and it makes it much more difficult for hackers, for example, to exploit software bugs that might exist within the memory. That's, again, some stuff that's available with Windows 8 and also 8.1, of course. But again, under the hood improvements, stuff that you're not necessarily presented with right away when you're jumping into Windows 8 or 8.1 for that matter. But they are there, and they do help. Okay, let's talk about Windows 8.1 updates. We're going to start with the start screen, which you'll see right here. Various ways to get to this. You can hit the Windows button. You can jump down here in the bottom left corner now. So now that we have a start button in the corner, clicking it will pull up the start screen, which is effectively your start menu if you're coming from Windows 7. You can do it on either screen to pop that up because I have enabled one of the new features of Windows 8.1. To get to some of these new features, I'm just going to show you them right now. Right-click on the taskbar on the desktop and go to Properties. You have taskbar and navigation properties here, and you'll see some advanced options, particularly when you go over to navigation. So what I just did prior to this, I forgot I have a touchscreen, is I put Show Start on the display I'm using when I press the Windows logo. So that will allow you to pop up the start menu on either screen. Multi-monitor support is one of the additional improvements for Windows 8.1. But what I wanted to show here, apart from that, is this option. When I sign in or close all apps on the screen, go to the desktop instead of the start menu. This is something that people were asking for, and a lot of people with the original Windows 8 had gotten third-party apps to do. Now you have that option right there. You can also do this option, show my desktop background on start. So I'm going to hit apply for those, and then when I pull up the start menu, you can still see your desktop background. So whatever background you might have chosen for that, and let me go ahead real quick and pop up maybe a different one. Lines and colors. Flowers. Let's do flowers. They're pretty. Okay. So as you can see, start menu now, it pops this up. And it's really just a visual thing, but it gives that sort of, it gives a bit more attachment, I would say, between the desktop and the start screen environment, and it keeps things a little bit more fluid. If that's really just an aesthetic thing for you, well, there's more options as well. But let's go back to the start menu, for example. Talk about some of the options there. First off, your tiles here. You have various options for rearranging them. So you might notice you have some very tiny tiles like this one. These ones right here, those are available now. The square and rectangle versions here were already available, but then you have a larger version right there. So for live tiles, which a lot of people are very fond of because you can see active updates here for the weather or stocks or news, or if you have your emails connected there as well. You can see all that kind of at a glance, so it's great for laptops or tablets, or for a desktop for that matter as well. All apps is something that people weren't quite as happy about with original Windows 8. For example, when you loaded a new application, let's say it was something like an Adobe suite that has literally like 10 or 20 different sub-applications within that suite, it might really populate a bunch of extra tiles here, and you might not necessarily want all of those. It's not going to do that anymore, and to that end, in order to access your apps, you have the swipe feature, which is now available like that. So if you just swipe up on the menu, you can see all of your apps right there. Swipe back down, and you can get to the main start screen. If you are not having access to a touch screen, you can just click the little arrow right there to pop that up. Click the arrow again to swipe down. So a little bit easier access to see the all apps function versus the start menu that you can set up yourself here to really only see kind of your quick hit stuff or your frequently used apps that you might be looking at all the time. Another thing as far as navigation goes, from the start screen right here is going to be the charms bar, and the charms bar previously was something that you would mouse into the top right corner to see. You can still do that, but just a slight modification here. When Microsoft has gone and shifted those icons up if you're accessing it in the top right corner. They shifted them down if you're accessing in the lower right corner. It just gives it a little bit less mouse travel to get to the things that you might want to get to. And then of course, If you're using a touchscreen, you can still swipe in from the side just like that, and they'll be positioned right in the middle. Another cool thing about the Charms bar, at least something that's accessible from the Charms bar, is going to be the search functions. And this was something that was particularly a pet peeve of mine when it came to using the start screen and searching for things. With Windows 7, if you popped up the start menu and started typing something, like for instance, I always like to look at, wait, I want to see folder options. Folder options. You start typing something, it pops up in the search. With Windows 7, it would populate pretty much anything you might be looking for. With Windows 8, it was categorized into settings and programs and something else, I forget what. Now it's universal, so it's a global search. And by typing folder right there, since I am looking for folder options, I can type folder, and there's folder options right there. I don't have to click again to get into the settings options or that sort of thing. So they've improved on that. It's going to search your entire computer, and then also down here you'll see some additional pop-ups, so you can use this to immediately search straight to Bing. So this will pop up and give you a quick Bing search, and you can pop over and do that. While I'm at this was the first one of these pop-ups I've seen so far. One of the elements of Windows 8 that a lot of folks had a difficult time with was just learning Windows 8. Some of the functions are there and they're accessible and they're not that difficult to use, but unless people know how to use them, people aren't going to use them. So you'll have a tutorial that will pop up at times when you do your initial installation, and this is just to let people know what is there. So this one, for example, is saying swiping from the edge to get to the start menu. That's just a Charms bar notifications. There's another one that will pop up and say, hey, you got a start menu down here. I've seen a few of them with this installation, and this is a pretty new installation. Of course, for Metro apps or Windows Start apps, you still have the option to grab from the top, swipe to the bottom to close. You can swipe like that to close as well, though you can't close the desktop. But if I were to open up Internet Explorer, for example, and then I also wanted to pop up, say, mail, for example, there's my mail. By the way, if you guys are emailing me at the email that you see right there, it's really just a tester email, and I don't really check those, so I'm sorry. But apart from that, or at least once you have multiple applications open, you can use this to swipe back and forth between them. Bear in mind, this is switching between Metro apps, or the Start menu accessible apps, and desktop, so it's going to treat the entire desktop and any apps that are running on it as a single app, but that's a quick way to switch back and forth between them, of course. And then beyond that, you also have a settings app, which has been improved. So let me just connect to that again real quick. I'm going to jump down to the settings option here. They've changed some things around it here. There were some settings that previously weren't not accessible using a touchscreen only. So they've improved that to help you get access to some more of those. So if you want to click on personalize, you can access your personalized settings. You can click on tiles to switch around some tiles and stuff like that. I also want to jump into the PC settings menu, which is down there on the lower right. Change PC settings. Oops, except I just hit enter by accident. And this will allow you to control a lot of the Windows 8 features. And this is another thing that was maybe a little bit hidden, so people would have a harder time accessing it. You can change your lock screen. You can set up a picture password or an account picture for yourself. Here you can jump into PC and devices. You can adjust a bunch of settings in there. Another function of the lock screen is you can swipe down on the lock screen instead of up. This is a little bit more suited towards tablet devices, but you can do that to automatically quickly access your camera, which is a nice feature on a portable device, because that's often you pull up your tablet, I want to take a picture really quickly, so it gives you quick access to that. Here's some display customization you can access from here. This is sort of along with the display functions that might be available, for example, from the Windows desktop, but you can adjust some of those right here. Devices will show you devices that are currently connected, as well as network devices. You can adjust your mouse and touchpad. A lot of this stuff was already there with Windows 8, but some of it has been enhanced for Windows 8.1. Spelling and autocorrect features, for example, when you're typing in a search and it gives you autofill features, they've improved that as well. Corners and edges, if you're not into the hot corners ability of Windows 8.1 by mousing up into the corner, that sort of thing, you can disable some of that. So when I point to the upper right corner, show the charms. When I click the upper left corner, switch between my recent apps. You can turn that off. So if it's a functionality that you don't use all the time and you find that it becomes more of a hindrance than something that's convenient for you, you can turn those functions off and then you won't be bothered by them. So that would go a bit more towards the traditional desktop mode. Screen and sleeping functions. Windows 8's standby features are fantastic, as well as the boot times. That's one of the great enhancements you get when you load it up. Autoplay functions, PC information for what you have installed and whatnot. Okay, that's about enough for now, so I'm going to close that. So back to the start screen, and I mentioned you can resize these icons, but I didn't really show you guys how to do it. Oh, also I just launched Internet Explorer. There's that function of when I close an app and there's no other apps open, it's defaulted back to the desktop rather than the start screen. So again, that's an option you have. So here, for example, is the Games tab. If you right-click on any of these little tiles right here, it will pull up a little tile function menu down there at the bottom. So you just choose Resize. You can go small, medium, or wide for this one. So medium, again, is that sort of medium size, I suppose. Let's go back to small for that one. And I am going to drag that up there. Okay, let's jump to something here that I know I can make larger. So the Mail app, for example, I can resize. So small, medium, wide is the wider rectangle that it's at right now. I can go large with it. And again, if these have live tile functionality like the weather ones there, you'll be able to see a little bit more of that. So that gives you a little bit more customization in here. And of course, you still have the ability, as you did here, to sort of group these in different groups, and you can add titles to the groups and all that good stuff, which is always useful. But let's jump back here and show you guys the function. I'm going to be using Internet Explorer 11 to demonstrate this, but some of the split screen functionality as well as using this interface on multiple desktops. So when I launch this, it's full screen, as it probably should be. If I wanted to, for example, open a new tab, let's say I wanted to jump over and pull up the news from MSN here, something like that. You'll notice it shows me my tabs right here. If I right-click on one of these, I can open the tab in a new window. And you guys may have seen this multitasking functionality with Windows 8, but it gives you a bit more options here. So for instance, you can resize this to your heart's content. You can also display more than two things here. Depending on the width of your current display, you need a 500 pixel width per app that you have on there. So if you have a larger display or a higher resolution display, you can actually do even more of these. You can, of course, reposition these over here. So when I did that over there, it actually did the Start Menu UI version of the desktop. So the desktop's still there, it's just smaller. It's shrunk down a little bit, and you can still mouse over it and access it and all that good stuff. And then here you can position that on the left or the right or wherever you might want to position it, like so. And then we could open up another window if we wanted some sports and open that there. And now you can be doing all sorts of things at the same time, which is always exciting. Okay, so let me close down some of these. Again, we popped back to the desktop after that was closed, which is super handy. And back out to normal, and then I'm back to desktop mode. So split screen functionality, you can adjust the window sizes for multitasking. You can run multiple apps on multiple monitors. So if you're fond of the Windows UI apps, you can stretch those across multiple monitors now, which is helpful. And then the big news for this one, which I've been kind of saving toward the end, is, although I have mentioned it, is the Start Menu button. That was something that a lot of people missed with Windows 8 when it first came out. Some folks were lost without it. It does just have the functionality where it pops up your start screen, as I'm showing you guys right now, but you can go back to it from there. And here's one of the features that I really, really like. Shutting down the computer was a little bit difficult in Windows 8, or at least finding that. There is a context menu that will pop up if you right-click on the Start button. That will allow you to access some more advanced features such as System or Device Manager, or the command prompt if you want to pop that up, Task Manager and Control Panel. This was actually here with Windows 8, but they've expanded it a little bit. They put a shutdown or sign out option right there, so you can easily shut down right from there. The other option for shutting down, which wasn't that difficult, but it was a little bit hidden for some people, is right there in the settings button. You can go over to power, and you can use that to sleep or shut down or restart the system. And then finally, the help and tips function is something that I would like to show. So I'm just going to go here and type help. Help and tips populates right at the top. And this is basically a little Windows UI style app. And this is designed specifically for teaching you how to get the best use out of Windows 8.1. So starting apps, getting around, basic actions, your account and file settings, and what's new. Let's start with getting around. So it talks about going to the Start menu, switching between apps, seeing recently used apps. This is side scrolling, closing an app, for example, and quick little videos for each one to show you how to do those things. Basic actions, for example, are all shown right here. So if you're not sure how to do something in Windows 8 and you want to figure that out, basically just go to the start screen, type help and tips pops right up, and you should have tutorials available there for anything you might want to do with Windows 8.1. And that is going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching. Hopefully you've learned a bit more about Windows 8.1. For folks who already are running Windows 8, Windows 8.1 will be available as a free download and upgrade, so that will be available via Windows Update, and it should be out as of the publication of this video. But if you're interested, once again, links to these various copies of Windows 8 are available down in this video's description. If you'd like to see more tech videos like this one, you can check them out on our Newegg TV YouTube channel. If you found this video useful or entertaining or informative, go ahead and leave us some feedback down in the feedback area below. You can click the like or the dislike button. You can leave us a comment on how you feel about Microsoft's changes to their newest operating system. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Newegg TV.